Sometimes your hot water heater could be attached to the wood stove. A lot of cook stoves, especially out on the farm, and especially if they didn't have running water, would have had, usually on this side, although it could sometimes be on this side. I have a Monarch stove in the collection that had it on this side. These plates, this is the thing about stoves, they all remove. This is a warmer plate here. It actually doesn't attach on this side, so it would have had to have been on this side. You could have hung a water reservoir tank on the side, and as the water heated the stove top, and as the fire heated the oven, it would circulate around and heat the water, so you could have warm water for washing. But you usually had some sort of big kettle on there, because if you're doing dishes, you do your dishes on the stove top.
Eat it all the time, yeah.
So the stove is not just for cooking, it's for also doing laundry. So you'd have your copper boilers on here, you could get your laundry going. A lot of laundry was done in summer kitchens. You know, even if you didn't want to be splashing water in your house, you could heat up your summer kitchen building and have a stove out there and do it out there. You had Saturday night baths. So you'd heat your water for your Saturday night bath on the top of the stove. You put your bathtub behind the stove, and you'd send the kids in one at a time to go take a bath behind the stove. Drying clothes, we've got our dry rack there for when you're doing laundry. You can put it up behind the stove and hang all your towels on it, and sheets and shirts and everything else. So yeah, the stove was in constant use, not just for meals, it was cooking, it was cleaning, it was everything. Canning, that's the other thing, and food preservation. It probably made a huge jump in food preservation. Because if you think about it, we come into canning about we were playing with it by the Civil War. We were starting to play with canning by the time of the Civil War. The tin cans, things like that, you had to be very careful because they still didn't have the process refined. So a lot of people were not all that trusting of canned meats, and with good reason. I mean, some of them they were sealing with lead and everything else. We started canning, and we got into I think the earlier ones of the ceramic, you'll see the glass lids and the rubber jar rings. By the 1900s, that's kind of pretty much how we were canning. And you could actually water bath can on the stove. You'll see the big copper boilers. You could get a big copper boiler going on the stove, and you could water bath can. You could put up quarts and quarts of beans and tomatoes and things like that, which are much better than the dried system. There's some fruits that we couldn't preserve very well before we canned them. You know, peaches, peaches, berries, fruits. We either had to dry them or we had to brandy them. And I know a lot of the fruits, 1850s, if you couldn't really can peaches, they were brandied peach recipes. So you'd stick them in brandy or alcohol, and then you'd bake with them, things like that. So yeah, it also revolutionized how much food we were able to put up, how clean we were able to keep our house, how safe we were doing it.